All the movies you've ever watched, all the comic books you might have read, all the stories you've ever heard about, there's never been one that didn't have to go through the dark night of the soul.
Right.
So that's your lesson. Face it as a challenge, not a threat. When you face that as a challenge, your epigenetic system upregulates. You become superhuman.
Ooh, love it.
When it's said that God doesn't give you anything you can't handle. That's why Cynthia, my wife, has a t-shirt that says, God must think I'm a badass. Because he won't give you anything you can't handle, right? So everybody has stress. So how are you handling that stress? Are you rising to the occasion?
Yeah, you better. Cause you want this, I want this. Everybody in this, what should have it? Stop illusions, it's in your hands. Show yourself, reveal it to them. Yeah, you better. Take the time to recognize it. You won't leave me even if you try it. You're the artist, and the lesson. Happily become the new in your hands.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Unlimited with Elisabeth Carson. Today I have very, very special guest with me, Dr. Patrick Porter. Doctor, I'm so happy to be here with you. Again, we had another interview and you're just full of so much information that I literally can look at your page and nerd out on all day. So it's like, just want to dive right in with you. And I just want to let everybody know too, your device, the BrainTap that you created, has helped me so much through so many hard times in my life, especially this recent one that I just had. And, helped me with sleep, helped me keep my mood up, and just, it was so good. So I appreciate the work that you do. And I appreciate you inventing this device that is freaking life-changing. So just thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's why we do it. We're all in this together. So we need to raise our energy and get through these things.
Yes, absolutely. So can you tell me a little bit about first, how did you come up with the device BrainTap? How did you even start that?
Well, back in the 80s, probably before you were born, I was with a group called Light and Sound Research. Okay. And we were looking at ways to help people to get rid of pain. A lot of people think pain is outside of themselves and something happening to you, but actually pain is something that happens through you. It's your brain telling you there's a problem. So think about it like you got these messengers saying, hey, there's a problem with your toe, there's a problem with your brain, there's a problem with your ear, whatever it is. Pain only happens in the brain. What we know is the brainwave state that it operates in is called beta. This is our reactionary mind, the fear, the frustration, the anxiety. All the social medias try to drive us into that brainwave because it causes chaos. And I'm not sure why, it's certainly not good for us. And when you're in that beta state, you use up all your resources very quickly. When I say resource, I mean everything from the sugar in the cells to the light energy to your neurotransmitters to everything. Basically, when somebody says they're burning at both ends, when they say they burn out, that's because the body is cyclic in nature. Everything's cyclic. So we were looking at what did ancient cultures do to relax and change things. There's a lot of different ways. So the first thing we looked at was sound, because sound is so important. If you go to an ancient tribal village, they're going to have the shaman there with his drum and he's going to be beating it. What we know is most drums that are stretched across, those drums actually beat it at 528. I love frequency. So when you get that bong, that vibration goes out. Now in every cell of our body, there's something called a chromophore. This is actually a little battery that absorbs energy. It absorbs light, sound, and vibrational energy. Now, when you're in beta, it's almost like a protective covering goes over it. You don't get to receive that energy. But if you drop down into alpha and then into theta, or if you rise above it into gamma, your cells actually start absorbing more energy. So what we were looking at is how can we think of somebody in pain? When you're in pain, there's nothing you want to do but get out of pain. You want to run away from that pain. And of course, that fear, that anxiety, that discomfort can cause us to make bad decisions. Right? So what we were looking there back then, remember this was in 86. There was no neurofeedback. There was no ways to measure the brain really for the average person. In our labs, we were using biofeedback. So we know that when you do some different breath work, you can change your physiology. So while you're breathing and you make your hands warm, they call it neurogenesis. When you make your hands warm, you're actually creating alpha brain waves.
Wow.
And we use something called GSR, galvanic skin response systems. So you could put your hand on this and it would actually have a beat frequency. And every cell of your body is like that drummer. It's beating a frequency, beating a frequency, beating a frequency. And when you meet somebody else, they beat a frequency. If you're on the same wavelength, you connect. That's why when you meet somebody and you say, I really vibe with that person, or I don't vibe with that person, it's because we're synchronizing.
Yes.
And the synchronization happens in everything in the universe. So when you're out of sync and there's a disconnection from source information, then you start to get a disconnect. That disconnect is the pain. It's the neurons trying to reach out and create a connection. So we know that when you start to relax, you can do that. So sound can do that. We can use binaural beats, isochrotic tones, and then that was the first step. So that was really good, but we want to do something different because not everybody, when you're in pain, you can't just get, somebody says, just don't talk to me, I'm in pain, right? Because your senses shut down, you start shutting down. But what we did was we started looking at what do ancient cultures do? They, at the end of the day, if you and I were out hunting and gathering for the day and we meet at the communal fire, there's going to be a fire burning there. That fire is actually crackling at 10 hertz frequency. Now, most listeners might not be aware that every cell of your body has something called a mirror neuron. This mirror neuron means that whatever's happening out here in what we think is outside of ourselves is actually reflecting inside of ourselves. And our body is trying to match that frequency. So if we're around fire, you get too close, of course, you get burnt. But if you get in that right place where you're sitting there with your friends, you're talking, you just start to get mesmerized because your brainwave frequencies start to go down. You get in sync with the fire. That's 10 hertz frequency. Now, fires do something else. They actually emit infrared light. And this infrared light is actually being absorbed. Our body is fed more with light than it is with the food you consume because every breath you take, every thought you think, every activity you're part of, every meal you have, your body is trying to break it down into something called ATP. ATP is the building blocks of the body, right? So, and like in business, they always say money takes care of a lot of problems. Well, ATP takes care of a lot of problems. So when you're younger, when you were born, you were the smartest person you're ever going to be. The moment you were born, you were fully connected. A 100 billion neural processor with all these neural pathways, you were able to absorb creation. You were able to absorb languages. You were able to absorb, you figured out how to talk to your body. There's chemical, mechanical, electrical information. You are an informational system. At that point, you had the energy to do it. You could fall down, stub your toe. It hurt for a little bit, but you get over it. You might twist your ankle. Next day, you're up running around because your body was able to heal almost spontaneously. But the problem is, as we age, unfortunately, these brainwaves start to collapse because of coherence. So let's say that we get hit with a trauma. Something happens. That trauma creates almost a fracture in time. And actually, I have a book that I'm writing called Fractured in Light, because what happens is that light, if they could take the computers, what they're working on right now is how can they store information in light? Because then it would be infinite. You are that infinite bioprocessor. You are a light being processing information at the speed of light. Everything in the known universe, past, present, and future, and infinite possibilities, all exist within every cell. As a matrix of activity. Now, that doesn't mean we have access to it. I can go into the world's greatest library in the world. All the knowledge is there, but if I don't have a way to access it, it doesn't do me any good. So that's where we have to slow down the brainwaves. Once you get into alpha, what happens is the body then starts to create its own anesthesia. Now, when you think of amniotic fluid as amnesia, we forget everything we knew before. And then we start with scratch. And it's like, what? Why don't I remember everything that ever happened? Because, and we can get into this a little bit more about epigenetics. But what happens is now the body is responding to its environment. Your environment is doing it. So we said, why don't we present light? So we started with a candle. People could meditate to a candle. People have been doing this for years, right? For hundreds of thousands of years. You look at a fire, you get mesmerized. Now that's down-regulating your nervous system. You're going to go to sleep afterwards. It's not like today where you're watching a Netflix documentary or a series, and you're done with the one series, you're tired, but then the next series comes up and you're up again because you're being stimulated. But the fire is meant to down-regulate the system, get you into what I like to call subspace, where you can start to organize, because we need 1 hour of deep sleep and 2 hours of REM sleep. But back then we didn't know that. So we said, wow, LEDs just came on the market. So imagine they were available, but not to the general public. So now we have LEDs. We can start flashing these LEDs at certain frequencies. Your body's, all those mirror neurons that we have in our body, they're always evaluating our environment. So Elizabeth, if I could take your DNA, I could pull it out of your body, and I could stick to the floor, it would go to Pluto.
Wow.
That DNA is a viscous material. It absorbs light energy, as codes, as information, and broadcasts that information through your body, telling your body what to do.
Wow.
Now, not just the solar system, every light source in the universe is pulsing through you and out of you all the time. And then we have filtering systems that say, this is me, this is you. You know, we're separating ourselves all the time.
Yeah.
But in this frequency response that we have, when we want to get into a pain-free state, we need to go inside, start creating alpha, which creates acetylcholine and all these other wonderful neurotransmitters to make us feel good. We forget the pain because it's just a signal.
Right.
And we enter into a state in the nervous system called the parasympathetic system. Our body, and this is what I like about the Hindu religion. The Hindu religion isn't a religion. Most people don't know that. It's just a way of life. They believe that our biological system was designed to enlighten. But we have to have the right conditions. So it's like making a meal. You know, you could have all the ingredients on the table to make a good meal, but if you're not a chef and you don't know how to mix those ingredients, you don't get the same meal, right? That's why we paid the high price for the people that know how to mix those ingredients. Well, the ancient masters have figured that out. What we need to do? So we found out that you got to get your breath right. Most people don't breathe.
Yes.
You got to get your mindset right.
Yes.
Unfortunately, you and I, that DNA I was talking about, that's not just yours. It's 7 generations or more. In fact, one study with MIT just 3 weeks ago came out and said 256 generations are influencing you. Our science said that. Now the Hopi Indians said that 7 generations of my ancestors are guiding me. Now, how did they know that this epigenetic experience? Because in 2001, when they said, hey, we mapped the human genome, they didn't.
No.
They have 1% of it.
Yeah.
Could you imagine graduating from college and you say, I want my diploma, I answered 1% of the questions. But in 2018, our science has evolved. It's fast now. It's good, especially with AI and everything's going on. Everything's accelerating. Now they know every DNA pair, which means when we started this conversation, for all the listeners, to this moment, since the moment you were born, every 40 seconds approximately, every DNA pair in your body has rebraided. Meaning that you were given instruction sets based on 2 things. The first filter of the human condition is this a threat or is this a challenge? So some people rise to the challenge, right? Something's going to happen to everybody. I mean, the world isn't set up for, we don't just have, it's not like a bowling ball that has those gutters and we just get put in the gutter and we go down the way. Ours goes, we're all over the place.
Yeah.
It's our job to get back to center and let the world revolve around us.
Yes.
You don't tell that to the world. You tell that to yourself in the mirror in the morning. But but the reality is the world does revolve around you.
Yeah.
Because it's your perceptual filters that mimics.
That part. Yes.
So what we found out was if we can get them focusing on the light, the candle, get them breathing what we call a 4-8 breath, which is you're exercising the nervous system, you're breathing in, turning on the sympathetic system, the fear. You've got to face the fears. And this is something I would always tell my clients. There's never been a superhero. All the movies you've ever watched, all the comic books you might have read, all the stories you've ever heard about, there's never been one that didn't have to go through the dark night of the soul.
Right.
So that's your lesson. Face it as a challenge, not a threat. When you face that as a challenge, your epigenetic system upregulates. You become superhuman.
Love it.
When it's said that God doesn't give you anything you can't handle. That's why Cynthia, my wife, has a t-shirt that says, God must think I'm a badass. Because he won't give you anything you can't handle, right? So everybody has stress. So how are you handling that stress? Are you rising to the occasion? Now what we know happens is at the mitochondrial level, the DNA gives the instruction set. The mitochondria responds by absorbing light energy into those chromophores. It then creates energy. Now, when you're sitting by the fire, you're getting infrared light. It's not just burning fire. It's actually emitting infrared light. Now, how did the ancient people know they were biohacking? They were sitting in front of the fire, just like they say today. If you have a red light, the proper from 650 to 850 nanometer light, you put that in your bedroom an hour before sleep or wherever you're at, you're going to downregulate the system. That's like sitting in front of a fire because everything's cyclic. At night we should downregulate. We're not present anymore. We go off to wherever we go during sleep. I wish I could take a tape recorder or a video camera. Where am I going during sleep? Sometimes you get a little glimpse, right? You wake up and you have these insights and things.
Yeah.
But if we can get the body in sync with its environment, pain is optional. And people go, what do you mean? I had surgery at 19 years old on my shoulder. My dad hypnotized me. And I didn't use any anesthetic. Basically hypnotized me to believe that my body, using the most powerful pharmacy on earth, the human brain, could create the anesthesia I need. And they cut up with my shoulder. They took a piece of my bone from here, put it over here, put a screw through it. No anesthetic because I had a reaction to anesthesia. So I couldn't have the surgery. Now I've helped hundreds of people since then go through pain-free surgeries. It takes training because we are superhuman.
Yes.
We just need to activate the systems, and maybe we'll get into some more of these things during the talk, but we don't know who we are yet. We're like the caterpillar that's in the cocoon. We think the cocoon is the real thing. But just outside of that cocoon is sunlight, breezes, flowers, and a great life. But it doesn't stop there because it's going to happen again and again and again. And that's why I like to tell people with Rod Hairston, my friend in Austin, Texas, he says, there is no there. You're not going to graduate. There's not going to be any diploma given to you at birth. They're going to say, hey, good job. Here's what happened. Here's your next assignment. You're going to keep going because in physics, they say energy is never destroyed nor created.
Right.
It's translated. So you're going to transcend. So if you can start transcending here by bringing up the energy, it's all an energy equation. Remember I said you were the smartest person you're ever going to be when you're born, 18.1 volt. By the time we're 21, maybe 18 to 21, that brain regulates at about 10.1 volts. We just lost half our energy.
Wow.
Because it's like formatting a computer. In the old days, you get your computer, you had to format it. That's why the Benedictine monk said, give me a child till they're 7, I'll give you a Catholic for life. Because they format the hard drive.
Yeah.
It's not that it's all true. It's just your truth because you've been formatted.
Right.
That's why neuroplasticity and neuroscience is sounding more and more like religion than anything, or spirituality, because in quantum physics, there's an infinite number of possibilities from any one moment in time. But when you get a dogma or you get a system of beliefs, that starts telling you this is the only way. And if you don't stay that way, you're sinning or you're doing this wrong. I'm not saying do bad things and think they're good. I'm just saying that we know when we're doing good things because we biologically feel good.
Yeah. Yeah.
The one thing, when I see somebody who's doing bad to other people, I feel sorry for them. They have to live with themselves. They have to go to sleep and think about all those memories because the karma, or what they call dharma, is happening right now.
Yeah.
It's not going to, it might happen in the future, but it's happening now. That's why Buddha said, he who angers you conquers you. So if you allow them to make you angry, you have to create the chemical corresponding condition of that anger. So the poisoner gets the poison.
Yeah.
So that's why when Jesus said, hey, love your enemy, when you fill your body with energy and light and you give them energy, I just say they just need to evolve. And energy is the equation. If we can get the energy of every cell, every system, every organ, all operating in unison. And I think I mentioned this when I was on a podcast with you before. If you go to YouTube, for those listeners who didn't hear the other podcast, go to YouTube and you look up synchronizing metronomes. And this guy starts 200 metronomes all at different times. Within 3 minutes, all of these metronomes are synchronized.
Yeah.
They're in rhythm. They're in cadence. Now, you have 75 trillion cells.
Yeah.
When you get those all in alignment, the carbon atom actually starts to spin. It looks like a pyramid. And it spins and it starts to align. It creates laser energy that shoots out through the top of your head and creates what they call the rainbow bridge. You are connected. So every time you meditate, every time you breathe, you're basically building your bridge to the infinite. It's already there. When Jesus said, I'm at the door, he's knocking. what the ancients are telling you is it's right there
Yeah.
because it's everywhere.
Right.
If they're omnipresent, that information is everywhere. And now they know in science that every piece of information about every other piece of information in the universe is in every piece of information. So it's kind of mind-boggling. So are you there? Am I you? Are you me? The reality is that there's no you and me. We're reflections of the same thing, just from different perspectives. Yes. And the pain, the anxiety, the stress, it all happens because we're not in the flow of this light system. So when we tune in, we turn on, we transform. That's the way it works. So as we're thinking about this, so with light and sound research, what we found out was when we introduced light, and I'll get it back down to physical reality so people can stay with us. In your body, you're a biological system that needs light. Just have to look at seasonal affective disorder. People live in Seattle or Michigan and they are all depressed in the wintertime. It's because they're not getting the light from the sun.
Yeah.
So just like our mitochondria is beaming codes to our body, waking our body up, telling us, hey, at 2:00 in the afternoon, Elisabeth, you're going to downregulate 2 degrees because it's time for the cycle to start again. Now, if we're in tune with that cycle, we'll be doing a meditation, taking a nap. We'll be doing something. Now we'll wake up in the up cycle. Now we get a cortisol trough again. We get chemical reactions. We're ready to go. We're on fire. But if we do something to stimulate like coffee, tea, chocolate, that's using the biological system. Most people, they think we're biological beings trying to become spiritual. This is a misconception. We are energy beings, spiritual beings, occupying a physical reality. Our job is to infuse this physical reality with our spiritual nature. It's the other way. We've been hoodwinked. It's the other way around. Once you infuse your reality and realize that life isn't happening to you, but it's happening through you, life changes.
Yes. Freaking incredible. I just did a talk in Bali just about this. Perception creates your reality. And usually people's perception is rooted in victimhood because of their programming from younger, child, I guess, from how many generations now? 200?
At least it might not even be their thoughts. The problem is that most people, these are shadow thoughts. They're from their mother's 7 generations. And then MIT just came out with a thing that said 256, generations. I think it's all generations. They're all there, but they're weaker signals. So think about like you're driving through Texas and you're in between radio stations and you can't tune into one or the other. You've got to choose which one you're going to listen to. Yeah. And that's going to give you the instruction set. But if you become a better amplifier and transmitter, which is what the human cells do, and the brain does, and the heart brain and the gut brain, once you get all these fields of energy in sync, now we become better receivers and transmitters of energy. We all know people that we call gainers, right? We get around people go, wow, when I'm with you, Elisabeth, I just feel energized. It's so great. And then other people walk in the room and you go, oh man, when they leave, I'm just drained. Yeah. Because the mitochondria, which isn't us, 54% of who's sitting in that chair right now, Elisabeth, isn't you.
Oh, that's crazy.
It's bacteria. It's all sorts of other things. And we need to align them with our purpose, our passion, our life. And we do that by settling down, creating that laser light energy that's available in every cell and every level of creation. And now they start to, it's when you set the field, it's like sitting by the fire. You are the fire. When you walk in, you are the burning bush. Yes. You are creating the environment. And so when you want to be the one that walks in the room and goes, wow, the room just got a little brighter. Elizabeth's here. Or you don't want to be the one, oh no, they're here. The room got a little darker. We all have those drainers in our life. That's why it's so important that we have people mentoring us and hanging with people that have already, nobody's done this. Nobody's doing it alone. If you try to do it alone, that's what addiction is. Yeah. Addiction is isolation. So we need to get people, we need the connection, we need the community. Like podcasts like this, sharing this information around the world. We're not just touching them on an intellectual level. When the Maharishi said there's 2 levels of intelligence. There's book knowledge. This is the bad knowledge. Because the more you know, the stupider you become. Because you think everything happens down one neural pathway. But when you're in what they call transcendent knowledge, that might be good, but there might be 5 other ways to do it. Let's figure out what's the best way. And because you're never in the same place. In fact, if everyone listening, if you're in a safe place and you can jump up in the air and then jump down, You just moved across the universe because our planet is moving at 144,000 miles an hour.
Crazy.
You're spinning and rotating, and you're getting bombarded with new codes for this moment in time. But if you're so distracted at the conscious level, you're not getting those codes. That causes fear, frustration, and anxiety. That's why we believe, or what I've shown in my studies, is 3 times a day you need to refocus, recenter. Now, it doesn't have to be BrainTap, but I'll give you an example. In the morning, just take 5 minutes and do psychological breathing. You breathe in, just let it go. But don't do it in front of people because they think you're crazy. But you just do. What happens is it resets your nervous system. Think of your nervous system as the antenna that is transmitting and receiving this information, bringing it into the cells. Now, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you can do box breathing. Now, there's a lot of different breathing. I'm just going to give 3 examples. So you do this box breathing, which is where you breathe into the count of 4, hold it to the count of 4, breathe out to the count of 4, hold it out to the count of 4. Do that for 3 or 4 minutes. If it's good enough for the Navy SEALs to regulate their nervous system, imagine you're one of 5 people. You're going to go take on that battleship, and you believe you can do it because you've been trained. You have the plans. You know everything about it. It's insane, but they do it every day. They do these things, and then at night, because we're out here in this world, we think we're just doing everyday business, but 75 trillion cells are doing 75 trillion different things. Every second of every minute of every hour of every day. So we have to train our subconscious. If we don't train our subconscious will start training us.
Yes.
So that's where we have to stay focused on the big picture. What I like to call your true self, your divine mind, whatever you want to think about it. There's a northern star. When you meditate, you start to see that star, and some people would say it's your soul or whatever. So in there is written everything about you, all the instruction sets, everything you need to learn, everything you need to know. And it's not about evaluating it. It's not about, is it right or wrong? It's just about being in the presence. There are people I'm sure you hang around with that are friends, and you might find for 5 minutes, you're not even talking. You're just hanging out. It's just, you're in the field. In science, for those that might be a little skeptical, in science on the NIH website, just go there and type in biosphere. Our scientists at the NIH said every person generates a field of energy around them. It's called the biosphere, and all illness starts in that field. So why are they giving us medicine? It's like putting a 55-gallon drum into a pond and saying, fix it. When it's not, it's the ecosystem of the pond that needs to be fixed, not a gallon drum. You can't have a pill without a skill. So even if you are taking pills right now, don't stop taking them. I'm not saying that. Get with your doctor, but start your meditation is your medication. You have the most powerful pharmacy on earth. You have 30,000 different neurochemicals that can be released with a simple thought. So let's get your brain active. Let's get your brain working for you. Think about when the Zen Buddhist said, hey, have a childlike mind. A childlike mind is fully operational. You have so much neuroplasticity. You can make a mistake. You can fall down 100 times, but then figure out how to walk across the floor. And then what happens when you walk across the floor, you forget all the failures. You don't even remember them, because very few kids will ever fall down again once they walk across the floor. But as adults, we start going, oh, you know what, that third fall down, that was my dad's fault or my mom's fault or somebody else. And they start putting the blame and they start putting importance on the negative. Forget about that. We're all going to make mistakes. We're doing the best we can with the information we have. And as long as we're plowing ahead, moving in the direction of our northern star, what's right for you, we're going to have happiness, because happiness is actually an expression of happenings. So when you have a series of happenings you like, it becomes happiness. But if you have a series of happenings you don't like, it becomes unhappiness, because you're not, the things aren't happening. What are you making happen? Goes right back to the first 2 filters in the human condition. Is life a threat or is it a challenge? Once you find out that you are more powerful than you've been led to believe, that you are not just creating your perception of reality, you are part of reality. You're not separated from it. The ocean cannot be separated from the wave. The light cannot be separated from the sun. You are part of it. You are connected. But you can deny it. You can say, oh, no, that's not true. I'm a sinner. I'm this or that. No, you're doing the best you can. Hell, they sent us here with no memories. We started from scratch.
Mhm.
They can't even build a computer like us right now. They can build one simulated like us, but
Uh-huh.
nothing is as good as a 100 billion neurobit processor we have. They can't build that.
Uh-huh.
We are infinite. We are invincible.
Yes.
But the problem is that when we start to think with these weak little beings that are subject to all these different things, and then we feed it poorly.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
if you owned a Lamborghini, you wouldn't be putting sugar in the gas tank.
Right.
You're a
Mhm.
Lamborghini.
Mhm.
Or whatever exotic car you want to think about. You are nothing in the universe functions like us that we know of. I mean,
Yeah.
I know there's other beings out there, but for us, we have consciousness.
Uh-huh.
We're aware of what we're doing. We're aware of we can look to the future and
Yeah.
build that future, because there's not a thing in the world that wasn't first a thought in a mind,
Mhm.
embodied
Mhm.
in a heart, and taken action in process. So as you think about you, so it all starts. You can't bypass any of those steps. You have to
Uh-huh.
own it in your mind, harmonize it in your heart, and live the actions. You have to be the thing that you want to be, and then you magnetize that into your reality.
Yeah. I know. It's freaking incredible because look, I think that the reason why BrainTap helped me get through my dark night, like it's so crazy, Dr. Porter, because throughout the hardest time of my life, I was, focusing on the challenge that I had to overcome in gratitude of nature, the sun, and I was doing BrainTap. I think I was feeding myself more energy, so I was able to think and be grateful instead of getting bogged down by, low energy, not feeling enough stuff in my body to be able to even get up. So throughout the dark night, I mean, I was energetic. I was in meditation. I was connecting with nature and the sun and absorbing the solar rays of the sun into my body. I mean, that's really, I believe, like one of the biggest reasons why I kept myself in gratitude because of light, because of the sun, because of even, BrainTap during the afternoons when I
Yeah.
didn't feel like moving.
Right. When you think about the ancient rishi said, your next piece of information is in your breath.
Mm.
And there's something called pranic energy, called the God molecule. It's in everything and everyone.
Yeah.
We have to activate that. Now, there's one thing that is in common with all negative emotional states for those listeners wondering what we're talking about. When you have anger, depression, anxiety, stress, all these things, there's one thing that's in common: lack of breath. But we get what we rehearse in life, not what we intend. So if you haven't rehearsed, could you imagine going to watch a movie and nobody rehearsed and they're just ad-libbing the whole time? It'd be a crazy movie. It might be interesting, but it would be crazy. They rehearse, and then they perform, then they film, then we get this finished product. They film for months and we get 2 hours. And people go, why is this happening to me? Well, you never rehearsed anything different. So you simply let the solar winds, the consciousness of other people, your ancestors, whoever that is, you're just kind of like a boat without a rudder. But as soon as you start to realize that you can plan this, you get your rudder set, you get your sails set. And then once the sails are set and you get the wind behind you, it's easy breezy.
Yeah.
And if a storm comes, you take the sails down, you set the rudder, you go through the storm, because everybody's going to have a storm.
Yes.
Just because the old saying with enlightenment is chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. It's just it's your perception of what reality is.
Yes.
Everything is a divine appointment. Who is ever in front of you right now, they need your full attention. You need to be present now.
Yeah.
Because if you bring all your energy into that moment, if you don't like what you're experiencing, I guarantee you bring all your energy into that moment, that will stop happening.
Right.
But the problem is that we're blaming and shaming and guilting and all these other negative emotions. The past is dragging. That's why in my book, Awaken the Genius, I call it the dragons of the past, because people keep dragging them on and on and on, like a dragon. It's dragging you down. In the future, it's not here yet. The future is better than anyone could believe. If I could go back in time to the 1800s and tell them what we do today, and they go, oh, the queen and king are listening to the symphony. I said, that's nothing. I can do that anywhere I want. I just take this piece of electronics out of my pocket. I go to YouTube or iTunes and I put on the Phoenix Symphony. What? That's impossible. We take these things for granted, but we are living like kings and queens every day.
Yes, we are.
But then people want to look at the mud and say, no, I'm stuck in the mud. I can't do these things. This is the most brilliant time to be alive. But the thing is, it's our energy, right? and when you think about brain fitness and what we're talking about, I said it earlier, we're born the smartest we're ever going to be. Neural pruning happens, which means we start thinking we know something. And the more we know, the dumber we become.
Yeah.
Because you need to realize I know something, but I don't, like Socrates, I don't know anything. That's the most, if you go into a situation saying, I know everything, you've already collapsed all the quantum fields.
Right.
It's that one possibility when there's only an infinite number of possibilities from any one moment in time. Do you hear me? There's only an infinite number of possibilities from any one moment in time. But what they're doing is they're saying there's only one possibility in an infinite number of possibilities. That's energy draining.
Yeah.
The other one is energy expanding. And so our body is a transducer. It receives information and transmits that information as codes through the body. And if we're in tune, we're getting the right codes at the right time. If they're not, then we have to change something. It might be our diet. It might be our movement. It might be our meditation. It might be our brain fitness. It might be our spirituality. We've been trained, unfortunately, by brothers and sisters, fathers and mothers, preachers and teachers. And sometimes they're good. Keep those ones. But sometimes they're bad. When I went to Catholic school, of course, shame was a really big part of it, and guilt, and that's the way to fill prisons. It's not a good way to do it. That's why my dad, when we were younger, he was a Silva instructor. So when he sent us to our room, we had to go to his bookshelf, and he had all these positive books. And I still remember pulling As a Man Thinketh off the shelf.
I love that.
And he said, take that book to your room and read it. And when you found something that you can apply in your life, come back out and tell me, and I'll let you play. So at first I would go in there and just, BS him. But it got my brain thinking.
Yeah.
That problem situation, I brought my best thinking to that situation. Of course, I could have done something different.
Yeah.
But I never planned it. I didn't program it. I didn't anticipate it. But now my dad is teaching me a skill. Every negative, that's why in like Think and Grow Rich, they say, and there's a kernel of enlightenment in every negative experience, if we're willing to look for it. There's a reason for every trauma. There's a reason for every negative encounter. It's to stimulate you to get a superpower, really, to be able to move on and do what you're going to do next.
Yes, absolutely. That part, I always say, find the gift in whatever happened to you, because it's happened for you for a reason. So you can grow maybe resilience, strength, empathy, something. There's always a gift in whatever happens to you, but really it's happening for you. Everything is happening for you.
Everything's happening for you and through you. Nothing happens to you. If it happens to you, now you're defensive, right? You got to put up your shields, and they know that as soon as and I think I talked about this on one of the others, they did a study during COVID, and they looked at COVID as a threat or a challenge. And the people that looked at it as a threat produced 200 times less energy. Imagine that. You have all this energy, and the moment you need it the most, you downregulate 200 times.
God, just through belief. Wow.
Just through belief. So, but if you face it as a challenge, you upregulate it, you handle the challenge, you have this light energy, and you solve the problem.
Yeah.
It's all about, we're always a series of problems. This isn't like, we're infinite beings. We wanted it to be complex. We wanted to, could you imagine playing a game that didn't keep score? Never ends. You don't know where you're at on the board. We have rules, right? These are divine laws or whatever we have. So when we follow these things, like when we do something for somebody else, it's not about what we're going to get out of it. We get it right now. When you do something for somebody else, they know you dump so many positive neurotransmitters, endolupins, brain chemicals into your system. You get like $30,000 worth of neurotransmitter activity just by doing something good for somebody, just by saying hello to somebody. Oxytocin when you give a kiss to somebody you love, or when you think about somebody you love. All these things, we're chemically and electrically connected in all cases. And the problem is that people think it comes from some outside source, like from a Snickers bar or something. They don't have energy, so they got to have a Snickers bar or something. And these sugar, when we talk about nutrition, some people look for treats for their satisfaction. What they find is they get those sugar blues. That's because it's actually causing our brain to dysfunction, misfire.
Wow.
There's never been a shooting of these mass shootings that they didn't find candy bar wrappers around the person. They had a dietary problem. Their brain wasn't functioning. When Hippocrates said, let food be your medicine and medicine be your food, that's the way it is. So you got to look at your food as how are you going to fuel up the body? How are you going to fuel up the cells? Now, of course, food is important that we put on our table, but the best food is the thoughts you think. That's
Mm-hmm.
the first one, because you're thinking them all day long. Then
Yes.
what's the breath you're having? Are you breathing through this situation? Are you letting yourself? The best thing anyone can do that's in the dark night of the soul right now is, before you make any decisions at any time, pause, just pause.
Yeah.
And we say break and breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And make your decision. It's only 3 seconds or less.
Yeah.
But when you do that, what happens is the brain then gets to reorganize and look at it as a solution rather than a problem. How can I solve this problem?
Mm-hmm.
What is it I have to do? And if I don't have the skills, do I need to read a book? Do I need to watch a podcast? Do I need to take a training? Do I need to hire a coach? What do I need to do? You'll start, the brain will start working. And now when you know there's a path to the solution, there's flow.
Mm-hmm.
But when you don't think there's a solution, because everything looks dark and you're never going to have another boyfriend, you're never going to get another A, you're never going to get another car, and so the brain goes, okay, we can stop that. Like when somebody says, God damn, the reason it's so bad is, think of a dam of water.
Mm-hmm.
You just dammed up the water flow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when you say that word, you're saying you're damming up the flow of God.
Mm.
It should say God flow, God flow. That should be the way we should say it. We got to reframe these things, because language actually changes 3,200 gene expressions.
Really?
So if you read the book Biology of Belief, that was written a number of years ago, and I'm very fortunate to be at Quantum University, where we bring in Bruce Lipton, who's a brilliant guy. Before anybody was talking about this, he figured out that the cells are listening.
Mm-hmm.
The DNA is listening. It's either upregulating or downregulating based on the words you choose, the thoughts you think, the people you hang around with, the food you consume, literally everything. Your environment is creating, while you're doing what you're doing on a conscious level, your body's got to do what it needs to do. So some people think, oh, God gave me a bad body. There's no connection. No, God gave you a Lamborghini, but you weren't washing it, cleaning it, giving it the right fuel. You weren't getting its checkups. Every day is a checkup. Remember, in the morning, we got to check it up. We got to get its own norepinephrine, dopamine, and cortisol going.
Yes.
In the middle of the day, we need a reboot. It's just it's a fact of nature. We've done studies that show this, where the Googlers and Microsofters when they did a 20-minute break in the middle of the day using BrainTap, they actually got 26% more work done that day.
Wow.
That means over the course of a week, by taking a 20-minute break, it seems like an oxymoron. Take a 20-minute break, you get a day and a quarter's worth of work done, and you get to take a break. This is how the universe works. You can't always be striving and pushing and going, because dopamine doesn't have a payoff. All the addictions that are out there are dopamine driven, because it's an adjutant, or it's a stimulant, and unfortunately we have biological urges, that we have to overcome, like every kid when I was growing up was trying to look for every girl, this is the biological need, and the girls chasing them away. This is just part of our biological nature. But sometime in our life, we have to harness that, because anything out of balance will create a disease in the body.
Yes.
So it's okay in balance. It's okay if there's a relationship there. It's okay if they're, and I'm not judging anyone, but it's just a matter of when you overdo anything, it destroys everything.
Right.
So we need to look at our life. What's out of balance right now? What's the simplest thing you can start to change? Your thoughts. They're always with you. And that's where BrainTap comes in. We need to change that dialogue about who you are. You're not this victim.
No.
You're heir to the fortunes of the universe.
Yes.
You are king, a queen, a prince, a princess, whatever. And you need to live your life. Now, right now, it might not look like that. But how many movies would you watch if they didn't go from a rags to riches story?
Right.
That's why, like, when you look at the mythos and all these stories about us, we all run the same stories. They say there's only 226 different variations of our world. Everybody's playing them out. And what they do in movies, there's a formula for making a movie. If they don't have this formula, the movie doesn't work. The movie is, first of all, there's something they have to solve. They solve that problem. Then there's a crisis. They can't use that. And then the crisis gets solved, and then they go off, and then there's some expectation of the future being better. Those are I'm just super simplifying it, but there's a formula to everything, because we are mathematical. There's a rhythm, there's a cadence, there's a rhythm, the circadian rhythm. There's rhythms in every cell. There's rhythms everything we do. And the thing is that most people step in to try to dance, but they've never learned the tune. You are the tune. You have to tune yourself up.
Yes.
What I learned just a little bit ago, I think 2 months ago, again, MIT or Harvard, one of those two, they came up with a study that showed every cell is singing a tune.
Wow. Really?
So when these cells all sing together, we have harmonics. That's us.
Yeah.
And if those harmonics are right, and Dr. Noget, who created Noget frequencies, he figured out we had 7 tuned frequencies. If he could tune those 7 frequencies, our body would go back in phase. So think about it like Star Trek. We're out of phase. If we get in phase, we have all the energy, all the expression. We're not here anyway. Why can one person be in the hospital and they get an instantaneous healing? Because they went in phase again. And then everything coordinated, organized, and created health and harmony and vitality. We can be in that state all day long if we want. And we can train our brain to do that. But if we're living in a chaotic world, believing that this is true, that that we only have this one little infinite life, and that we have to be subservient to these kind of things, we have to be free to. I'm not saying being, take over the world or whatever. I'm saying that we're here to help everyone else. No one gets out of here alive.
Yeah.
So in your community, what can you do to raise the vibration? And we talked about frequency before. Just for the listeners, I have a friend of mine, Doug Grant. I heard him say it. I said, I'm going to steal that, Doug. It's so good. He said, everything is frequency. What you frequently see, frequency. So high frequency people see high frequency foods, high frequency activities, high frequency outcomes. Low frequency people see low frequency foods, low frequency activities, low frequency outcomes. So we just have to change our frequency. Now we have to do that by eating the right foods. You cannot think a bad diet. We have to move and breathe. We have to do some kind of brain fitness. We have to check in on ourselves, because a system unattended, it's just like AI. I get interviewed all the time on TV and radio, and they go, what do you think about AI? Well, they've done studies that show AI can make you dumber. They actually, your neuroactivity lessens when you use AI, if you use it incorrectly. Now, if you use it correctly, which means it's just another sounding board, it's just another piece of technology. And I use it a lot to write articles. I'll talk into my Otter AI, I'll talk it in, then I'll dump it into ChatGPT and say, make this sound like Dr. Patrick Porter. It's about 90% there. I got to check it out. If I published what that thing printed, it would be ridiculous, because it's not smart. It's just a piece of equipment. It's just giving us information. We're creative.
Yeah.
And we need to creatively express. And this is what happens a lot of times in the human condition, is people misinterpret their creativity for sexuality because of the same energy. So when you think about the energy that comes up, that's why creative people tend to be a little bit more loosey-goosey in their sexual activities, because that energy is the same. But we have to express. We have to have output as well as input. And when we start channeling that, that's why a lot of people, when they have their quote Kundalini experience or their enlightenment experience, it starts at the root chakra.
Yeah.
But the thing is that you have to keep the root chakra and you have to keep this higher level chakra, all have to work together, because there's not a saint that wasn't a sinner. And there's no sinner that's not going to become a saint. So just where we have to move along that paradigm and be expressive, and don't judge yourself. The worst thing you can do is, lay in bed and catastrophize about your life. Right. Because then you're amplifying it. You're actually manifesting more catastrophe.
Right.
If you lay in bed and say, wow, I'm an infinite being, I've created this, congratulations. I might not like it, but this is what I created. Now you can start changing it. That's why having acceptance is so important, especially for like addiction and problems. If you're having a bad relationship, it's not that other person's problem. They're going to do whatever they do. I actually have on my wall, I created what they call the Brain Fitness Manifesto. And it's all the different things things you have to think about. People aren't trying to hurt you. They don't even know you exist. They're in their own little bubble. They're doing their own little thing. Don't think they're out to get you. They're just trying to get more for them. And if you know that, you know how the game's played. And there's enough energy to go around. There's infinite energy. Yep. So they're not going to steal your energy. They're not going to steal your life. They're not going to steal who you are. But some people you just can't be around because you don't match, right? The frequencies don't match. But other people, if you start to shine brightly, people will come, and bugs will come too. So you got to get rid of them. But you'll attract, like will attract like. The light will attract the light. And you'll be around, and you'll have that community that will support you and help you to learn and grow. And this is important for us, especially like in the Blue Zone books, they talk about longevity. One of the most important parts is having community. Who's your community? Who can you really be with? And what we know now with science is that it's not just being there and saying things. We're exchanging light. The reason I see you is you're transmitting infrared light, 8, 10, 8, 50 nanometer light. You are a light generator. I'm absorbing that light, even through the computer. You're seeing me because of light being emitted from my cells, and they're being absorbed by your cells, and that information is crossing barriers. MIT, this is something I learned since our last talk. Three weeks ago, they came out with a study that showed the human brain transmits information up to 10,000 miles away.
Ooh, that's crazy.
So imagine if everybody was in sync. This is the Maharishi effect. When they said, we're going to change Washington, D.C., we're going to bring the crime down. And I remember in the article, you can read this on YouTube, and the mayor said, there's no way you can bring the crime down in New York City. There'd have to be a snowstorm for that to happen. Well, the Maharishi had 200 TM meditators meditate for peace in Washington, D.C. While they're meditating, the crime goes down, just like he said. And they said, it's not you. It's not what you're doing. He said, okay, well, stop. Crime went right back.
What?
It wasn't just coincidence.
Yeah.
Our energy is causing these things to happen.
Yeah.
So that's why I tell people, turn off the news. They have to scour the whole planet to get us bad news.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much good news in your own community. You should be celebrating your victories every day, whatever they are. It could be just you have a clean house, you have a car to drive, you have a job to go to, you have service to other people, whatever it is. That's why when you're talking about gratitude earlier, it's so important, because gratitude drives emotional behavior, and emotions are what create the interaction within the brain and the biological system that makes you feel good. If you're not doing, if you don't think if somebody thinks they're worthless, they're no good, they're what I say, shitting all over themselves. Well, what happens is the body has to make that so, because the body's keeping score.
Yeah.
So the body, you have an illness in the body. Well, guess what? This isn't the body you were born with. Nobody listening to this call has a body that's older than 2 years old. Every cell is changing.
Yep.
But you bring the past with you into the present. So we need to clear out that past. In fact, they actually know it's crystallized in the body. And so a crystal is like a transmitter receiver of information. When I was in college, this was a long time ago, but when I was in college, we'd take a potato, you'd hook a speaker to it, just a wire with a speaker. You'd go, and our local station in Battle Creek, Michigan was KNR. I'd go to the Radio Shack, I'd get a little crystal, I'd put it in the potato. Guess what? As soon as I put it in that potato became a transducer. I had a radio that would pick up that station. That's like these thoughts. We crystallize these thoughts into our body, and it might be our shoulder, our hip. And, like people like Louise Hay, who wrote the book, Heal Your Life. These are psychosomatic illnesses. The body puts them where you need to learn from them. Yeah. And we can change those crystals. We can dissipate them, dissolve them. It's all about flow and being in the present.
Yes. Yes. I actually heard a story in Bali. It was a speaker, a beautiful woman, Caitlin O'Toole. Not sure if you heard of her, but she healed herself. She had tumors in her brain, in her uterus, all over her body, basically. And they gave her months to live. And she just thought her way out of it. She gratituded her way out of all of that. I read
her book. Was that the one that Wayne Dyer did the foreword to? There's a story about a woman who she actually was told you're going to die, and she healed herself. So this happens more than you think, but they don't talk about it.
Right.
Because it wasn't a pill that they can monetize and sell to us.
Yep.
We are the pill. We are the solution. Yeah. And of course, the divine flow is coming through us all the time. If we allow that divine right action to happen, the body will be healthy and healing.
Absolutely. I agree with that 1000%. That's why I feel like if you can just keep yourself present, if you can keep yourself in challenge mode, like excited for what's happening. I always tell people, look at things with wonder, like, whoa, everything is a miracle. Yeah. Everything is just a miracle around you. I mean, it really is when you think about it, because everything is beauty, and if you can stay on that vibration, you're going to attract the most beautiful things into your life. I mean, that's why I knew I didn't let myself stay down. I mean, of course, you're going to have down times, but you can't let yourself stay there, because then you're manifesting that type of frequency and action back into your life. So if you can stay high vibe, be thankful and appreciative, and look at things brand new every single moment, I mean, you can really manifest some magic. I mean, I
Yeah.
literally just got back from Bali.
It's important for people to know it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to
Yeah.
be depressed. What's
Mhm.
not okay is to stay stuck there.
Right. Right.
Everything's cyclic.
Mhm.
You know, you're going to have highs and lows. You know, that you can't have the crest of a wave without it falling.
Right.
You know, so everything in the universe is like that. So you just know, hey, this is my downtime. What can I do? Oh, I can do a BrainTap session. I can do a meditation. I can do breath work. I can do Tai Chi. I can do yoga to bring that energy up. Pretty soon your falls are not so fallen.
Right.
You still have the energy to manage it. Nobody's high all 100% of the time. That would be ridiculous. The body would burn out. So it's all cyclic. And you know, and then we wouldn't have really good times because we have to have the really bad times to tell us those are the really good times.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Okay. So this is really, really far out of what we've been talking about, but I'm really curious what you think about how when we have certain things in our life, we have alignments, right? So I was just in Bali. It was crazy. I was speaking. My outro song was Man in the Mirror, Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
And afterwards, like the day before we left, I was out with some friends. We're eating at a random restaurant in Bali, random. As we're paying our bill at the end, the Man in the Mirror comes on. And then I'm not done. Then fireworks go off. Boom. What is that?
This is like a simulation. When my wife and I we had our 30th anniversary, we went down the Rhine River. We celebrated our anniversary in Buda, and we called the cab. He comes to get us. He's playing all this weird music. You know, I guess it was their language. It stops. It plays our wedding song
What
in his
is
cab.
that?
I said, Cynthia, this is a simulation. What is going on here? And then it stopped. And I asked the cab driver, I said, have you ever heard that song on this radio station before? He says, no, we never play English songs.
What?
It's like, so you experience, when you're in synchronicity,
Yeah.
the universe happens through you. You direct the play. You're not just the actor anymore. You're the executive producer. You're the guy on the set that's saying what to do. And you have all this, let's say, orchestra of people or beings or light or whatever that's helping you to, this is all backdrop, ushering you into who you're going to be. Remember, we're still in a cocoon. We don't know who we are. This isn't us.
Right.
You know, this is a shadow of who we are. If we're willing to open up and let the real light in to see who we are, it scares people how powerful they are. That's why we have to take the little steps. And like, that's why the little steps are, you start talking about somebody, they text you or call you.
Yeah, right.
That happens but you have to acknowledge it. Oh, wow. Because in subspace we communicated, and then in physical space we communicated. But we're always communicating.
Right.
There's only one mind. We all share. But it's like going into a dark closet with a flashlight, and we all have a flashlight. We think that's reality. But there's a whole closet.
Right.
We're not looking at.
Right.
But we expand that light, we start to see more of the closet.
Yes. Yeah. I was talking about the in our brains, the reticular activating system, and how it's the filter of reality. And if we can change our filter to believe that, you know, whatever we want to believe, the magic is there, and then pay attention to that. I mean, now our reality is filtering out the way that, you know, we would dream it to be, instead of, you know, I just tell people, don't fall victim to what has happened. Don't fall victim. Don't stay in that vibration. Don't believe those things. You are not a victim. You are the powerful creator of your reality.
I still remember Jose Silva, when he was first creating the Silva method, he was working with his daughter, Laura. And there's a part in Silva where you get guides. They come into the laboratory of the mind. You get a right brain guide and a left brain guide, and they're helping you solve problems. And so she's doing the exercise, and she's just a little girl, like 7 years old. And he says, ask them what they think of me creating them. And they said, what makes you think you created us? They were already there.
What?
You know, and my daughter, when she was growing up, she'd always say, Dad, is this real or is this a dream? And I said, yes. She goes, no, is it real or is it a dream? And I said, it's real and it's a dream. But there's only an infinite number of them. Which one are you going to tune into?
Right.
So it's like, we have to think more fuzzy logic, like quantum logic, instead of, remember, transcendent knowledge is much more powerful than book knowledge. Now I have book knowledge. Obviously I went to school. I had to get a degree. You have to play the game, but you can't get stuck in that. What I learned in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s, even yesterday, that's old news.
Yeah.
There's new news.
Right.
I want to start learning from the future.
Mm-hmm.
We live there too.
Yeah.
And I want to direct my boat to go into the future, that northern star.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why when you meditate, you relax, use BrainTap, whatever you're doing, you keep focusing all your attention, all your energy. You're rowing the boat in the same direction. And you're only around people that are going to help you row the boat in the right direction. When that energy drainer shows up, of course, you have to deal with them. You're compassionate. That's why compassion is so important.
Mm-hmm.
They're on their own path. I can't change them. I still remember doing a workshop this was in Barbados in 1989.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how, and I thought I would play this game at the seminar where they do it at sleepovers, where you basically get 4 people around a person that's sitting in a chair and you say, light as a feather, light as a feather.
Yeah.
Right. So I get them doing that to show them. And this guy doesn't lift.
Uh-huh.
That's the first time it ever happened. Every time other than that, they're throwing the guy in the air. And I said, what's going on? He says, well, I'm a Tai Chi master and I anchored myself to the ground. And I said, this is a perfect example. This is that person in your life that you want to change.
Mm.
I said, so now that you've proved that you could do it, you're energy guy, good deal. I said, I asked you to think of yourself as light as a feather. So can you think of yourself as light as a feather? Faith threw him, almost hit the ceiling. Wow. Because that person has to participate.
Yeah. Right.
The circuit has to be complete. But if you can deny that circuitry, you can deny that connection, you can deny that transmission. But if you're open for love, you're open for gratitude, you're open for good things, you'll get the connection. It will be there. But if you're always looking around that somebody's going to, now you have to be aware, you have to discern, because there are predators out there. There are people that want to take you for everything you've got. They want to use your energy.
Yep.
So that's why it's important who you hang out with. If you have 3 alcoholics you're hanging out with, you're probably going to be the 4th.
Yep.
So who are you hanging with? Because their energy is going to transform you or demoralize you.
Yeah, exactly. So Dr. Porter, give people your 3 top pieces of advice before we get out of here.
Well, they're very simple. Number 1, drink half your body's weight in ounces of water and make sure you have mineralized water. We are batteries. We're not the battery. When we die, we lose 3/4 of an ounce. We're that 3/4 of an ounce, but we're driving this around. If you want to have a Lamborghini that's functioning right, that's the first step. Number 2, get up in the morning and kickstart your engine by doing some kind of breath work, BrainTap, whatever. Avoid coffee at all costs for 2 hours upon awakening. You want to get your biologic. After that, after 2 hours, you can have a cup of coffee, no problem. But don't crush your cortisol curve. A natural cycle of energy and vitality in your life. If you need coffee to wake up, you have a neurological problem. Fix it. So you might only be able to go an hour at first. You might be able to only go 15 minutes, but keep pushing it out. Make it a challenge. How long can I go until it's, I sometimes don't even drink coffee in a day.
Wow.
Because I don't need it, but when I have it, I'm going to have a good cup of coffee and I'm going to enjoy it. And I'm not going to be dependent upon it. Anything that I'm dependent upon, I need to stop. Because you have to be sovereign to all things. You are a divine being imbued with immense creativity and responsibility. But if you don't respond to those abilities, they just stay dormant. Number 3, practice before you go to bed, the 4-8 breath. If you don't have the BrainTap, practice. You have to unwind the body. That's because during sleep, you do more neurological activity during sleep than any other time of the day. It's not just laying there. And you need 1 hour of deep sleep, 2 hours of REM sleep. Now you're going to incubate your superpowers. Imagine you're going into the chamber, like Superman would go into the North Pole or wherever his little cave was. He goes into the cave, like the Brahman would say, go into the cave of Brahma. Now you exit in the morning. Now you're energized. You just got the instruction sets for the day. You got your mission, but it's only a feeling. Follow that feeling and expect something wonderful to happen. If you can do those 3 things, your life is going to change. Now there's 100,000 more, but those are the 3 top ones that I work with.
I love it. And Dr. Porter, what are you working on right now? Where can people find you? Give us some stuff that you're doing.
If this doesn't go out before then, October 21st, my new book comes out, Brain Fitness Blueprint.
Yeah.
Now, we didn't go so esoteric into that book. That's more science-based and for business. But they'll get the drift if they've heard this podcast. But there's a 30-day plan in there that we're working on. So there's always something. I'm always creating new things and doing different things with BrainTap. Usually every month, every day that I'm home, I usually create a new session.
Uh-huh.
And I have hundreds of them in the back. I've got 3,000 of them now, but I still keep creating them, that I can do. And I have lots of other books to do. I'm one of those people. My dad convinced me when I was young, if you're ripe, you're rotting. If you're green, you're growing. So you want to always be growing. I don't know everything. I mean, I was just at a conference and heard some really incredible stuff. I mean, this is the greatest time in the world to be alive because we can get information. Like you said, you were in Bali. I was just down in Florida at 2 different events. People sharing information about biohacking their systems. And, and then you look at how we're taking ancient traditions and making modern technology. I'm amazed, and everybody wants to talk. If you watch the news, you're only getting at one side of the equation. Tune out the news and turn on your inner spirit. And you're going to find that there's wonderful things happening within you right now that you can share. Every person watching this has a gift for the world. You're not here by accident. There's no coincidence. You're here because you want to be activated. And that activation is so you can teach other people. I think I told the story before, when Dr. Jockman wrote his book, The Crystal Planet, every person has a harmonics. They can measure it now. They put that harmonics, that piece of equipment up in a satellite, pointed it back at Earth. It only registered one being. It made the sound of Om, scared the shit out of the scientist. So on that level, the more we get away, when you look at the cells or we look at our skin, even there's little critters running around in there. Looks like prehistoric dinosaurs. They're going through the dinosaur phase right now. You go even deeper, you get into the cells. We're just part of a bigger organism, a bigger thing. We don't know what that is.
Right.
It's all connected. We're all beads on a string, but we play a very important role. And when we get our light shining, we bring attention to it. Now we get more assignments, if you will. You get more in the flow, more in the joy. You can't just jump from one to the other, though. You got to go through the dark night of the soul. You got to find out what do you need to put in that lead box? Yeah. Is it kryptonite? Is it whatever it is? Is it alcohol? Is it relationships? Whatever it is, you put that in the lead box. Now you're free. Now you can have your superpowers. You can do what you need to do. And then when the call comes to use your superpowers, use them. There's actually a place in the brain called the anterior cingulate that actually, the more we face challenges, the stronger it gets, the more resilience we have. The more we deny it, the weaker it gets. So if you want to have a resilient brain, ask for challenges. Remember, God doesn't give you anything you can't handle. So handle what you have today. And even though it's a bigger thing tomorrow, you've got it. You've got this. Yeah. Breathe through it. Use those skills and you'll make it.
I love it. I freaking love it. Yeah. I got to get you my meditations, by the way.
Yes. We'd love to have them on there. I think that would be great.
Yes, for sure. For sure. And where can people find you, Dr. Porter?
They can go to braintap.com. You're going to share a link to that. They can get a 14-day free trial. They can try it for themselves. And then they can go on social media. I'm Dr. Patrick Porter. They can go to my YouTube, see some videos. They're not always as fun as this. When I get to talk to you, I get to talk more esoteric and fun things. But there's a lot of good science information on there that they can learn about. And I'm slowly dripping this to the scientific community, and because I can back it up with data, because so many people think spirituality is over here, science is over here. No, there's only one. Science used to be a religion, and it's turning back into we don't want it to be a religion. We want it to be an experience. Yes. We as humans want experiences. We don't, like I tell people, we don't want a transaction. We want a transformation. So when you're with somebody, we don't want a transaction. Like somebody wants to go out and get laid or whatever. That's a transaction. You want a transformation. You want to be with people that transform you. Now, obviously, physical connection can be part of that, but that's just such a small part of it. Back in ancient days, that used to be a sacred ceremony. Now it's like, just turn on your phone or your computer. You can see people just going through the transaction, and people start thinking that's what it's about. No, it's about transformation.
Absolutely. Dude, every single time, I'm just like, there's so many gems, so much knowledge dropped. I mean, you're so positive. Everything that you speak is just freaking amazing. And guys, like everyone that's listening, you take all of his words, all of his wisdom and apply it to your life, because I mean, this is how you change. This is how you manifest your best life and how you create the reality that you want. It's always possible. I was telling people, you don't have to spend 20 years healing to get to the point where you want to be. You can literally make that choice right now, quantum jump into the timeline that you want to be on, and boom, you're there.
You create the frequency of what you frequently see. So you You have to, but it takes practice. Now, once you do it, it becomes easy. But at first, it's going to be difficult, just like walking. Just think everything you've learned, anything worth doing well is worth doing terrible at first.
Yes.
But you don't beat yourself up because you did terribly. Wow, I figured out that's not how you do it. Let's do it a different way. The good things there, but we got to keep trying. Like they even in Think and Grow Rich, they have one thing they call 3 feet from gold or whatever, where the guy stopped in his backyard. He went all over the world looking for diamonds. And when he died, they buried him in his backyard. And they found the largest diamond mine in the world was in his backyard because he didn't keep digging. You got to keep digging. And there's stories like this all over the place. So read good things, be around good people, attend good seminars, listen to good podcasts, do something that feeds your brain and your consciousness every day. And you'll be a different person 365 days from now. And you'll just be on the road to wherever you're supposed to be.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here with me today, Dr. Porter. It's always an honor. And this was only part 1, guys. Definitely having you back. So,
okay. Thank you, Elisabeth. It's always great talking with you.
All right, Dr. Porter. Until next time, guys, that was another episode of Unlimited. Peace.
This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. The views expressed are those of the hosts and guests and don't necessarily reflect those of the producers or affiliates. We do not guarantee the accuracy of the content. Please verify information and seek professional advice when needed. By listening, you agree not to hold us liable for any actions taken based on this content. Thank you for joining us on this journey. We hope you enjoy the episodes ahead. Love unlimited, feel unlimited.
Thank you so much for being here with me today. If you enjoyed this episode, I invite you to stay on this journey with me. There is so much more ahead. Courses, mentoring, healing circles, retreats, safe spaces to heal and grow. Make sure you subscribe, follow, and stay connected. We are not alone. In this journey, we're on it together.